I don't know how much time I have, so I'm going to do one take. I just read David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell, and I want to kind of share the main core lessons that I learned from this book. The first is the tale between David and Goliath, and David wins because he throws a stone, maybe steel. Goliath is like, come down here, fight me man to man, fight by my rules, let me use the sword. Well, David flings the stone at him, knocks him unconscious, or kills him, I'm not sure, probably unconscious, and then it picks up his sword and cuts his head off. So the lesson in this book, there's three parts. There's the power of legitimacy, the third part is the desirable difficulties, and the first part is the advantages of disadvantages and the advantages of advantages. This whole book is centered around the idea of the inverted U-curve, and this is amazing. The inverted U-curve is a lot of relationships in life, and it's basically what I think Aristotle said this, too much of a good thing is a bad thing indeed. You have this inverted U-curve, and the center, the average, like the standard deviation, like the middle of it is where the sweet spot is. And a lot of things in life are an inverted U-curve relationship. Alcohol, the size of teacher efficiency to class size, the effect of putting people in prison on crime rate. A lot of these are the U-curve. It's natural for people to fall into the trap that more is always better. Wealth and happiness is an inverted U-curve. People can decide mentally, right? We see people with prowess, we see physical strength, and we see the small and bigger person. We automatically assume that the bigger person is going to win. Why? Because it's easy to see things in that mentality of more and more is better. The relation between wealth and the difficulty of parenting is an inverted U-curve. The effect can trump ability and talent if the person does not play by the rules granted. David didn't play by Goliath's rules in that battle. The disadvantages of too much of an advantage. The other part's desirable difficulties. The idea that giving somebody dyslexia could make them a success, or having a parent pass away early in a kid's life. It's really scary. These things are crazy powerful, but it happens. Desirable difficulties. A lot of successful entrepreneurs and CEOs were dyslexic. They are dyslexic. But that caused them to compensate their learning in something else and become stronger, and that led to an advantage for them. If you're really rich and you have a lot of money, it's easier to say, I can't do this because I don't have the money, versus I won't do this, because won't has a whole value system behind it, because you don't have to stop at can't. That's one of the reasons why wealth is so difficult. Stories and examples in history where this holds true. My favorite is the little fish in the big pond and the big fish in a little pond. Which one would you rather be? Which one holds more opportunity for you? Well, research shows that you're more likely to be better as a big fish in a little pond than a little fish in a big pond. Why do we attach greatness to what is in the best interest of other people? We like to seek approval of other people, but this book talks about having disagreeableness, being able to be disagreeable to a point where you're kind of stubborn about what you believe and what you're going to do. You're not willing always to succumb to the approval of other people. The Impressionists, how they broke away from the salon. That's another good example. Getting a good degree is about how smart you feel relative to the people in your classroom. That seems completely contrary. But it's not. This one doctor that decided to mix toxins in chemo to kill cancer in young kids, and nobody else helped him because they thought he was nuts. But he cured the first form of cancer with chemotherapy, and they fired him. I mean, I'm not providing all the statistics here, but sometimes you gotta harm for the greater good. Oh my gosh, it's insane. A lot of revolutions in history are due to the stupidity of governments. Not always by the small groups of people. Disobedience being a response to authority. Sometimes kids in class, when they talked about this too, I like this because I'm in education. They talked about kids in class when they sit still in class and there's a problem with them sitting still. A lot of times it's not a behavioral problem. It's a disobedience problem. It's a problem with the teacher not engaging the students enough. There are a lot of Davids and a lot of Goliaths, but responding with David is more about your mental capacity and your skill, and just being a trickster by necessity. We may have to be unconventional in the way that we approach things. We may have to make up our own rules sometimes. Now, this doesn't mean you do what's wrong all the time, right? But sometimes you have to do what you have to do by necessity. It's not, you have to do what you have to do. The principle of legitimacy says, 1, you have to have a voice. 2, the the consequences have to be predictable in legitimacy. If something's legitimate, there has to be predictable consequences. You have to be able to follow it. And then the third part is the rules have to be fair. There are very, very real limits to what evil and misfortune can do, because when you take away something from somebody, they talk about dyslexia, when you take away the ability to write and take notes, you force somebody to listen. When you do something bad, you force what's left over to become stronger and more independent, and that's shown what's happened. And if that group that's left over gets stronger and they're able to string together and fight back with a David mentality instead of a Goliath mentality, that's why small armies beat bigger armies, because they're willing to do things in unconventional ways. And we see that all throughout history. The last hilarious story in here is the story between the rabbit and the deer, or the rabbit and the deer, or turtle and the deer. There's a race between these two animals, and what the turtle does is he cheats. What he does is he places all of his relatives along specific intervals all the way on the racetrack, and when the deer races him, the deer just sees turtles at different intervals. He waits at the finish line and crosses it. That's a completely different tale from what we've heard between the tortoise and the hare. As much as we hate to like it, right? Slow and steady doesn't always win the race. Fast and steady wins every time. But the inverted U-curve. Research shows that a glass of wine a day, I don't know how much amount, but a little glass of wine a day is good for you. At some point, it tips off, goes toward the bottom. Mike Falzone made a video with a U-curve in it. I think you understand. What are your thoughts? What do you think of this? Do you see any examples of the U-curve? I just want to share knowledge and appreciation for reading and learning and seeing the world complexly and understanding it. The real value of real education is nothing to do with knowledge and everything to do with simple awareness. David Foster Wallace. What the hell is water? Thank you for watching. I'm very grateful for it. Keep creating you, universe, TFTBA, and watch out for those U-curves. There's more than you think. We live in a U-curve world. Bye!